All right, we are back with another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. Hope you guys are having an absolutely fantastic day. It is a nice and not quite sunny, a little bit cloudy Friday here in Seattle, but that's how we like it. Uh, Today we have Ryan Chaw with us. You know, I didn't even ask Ryan, is it Chaw or is it Shaw?
Oh, that's correct. Yeah.
All right. Ryan is from Newbie Real Estate Investing. He has the strategy of buying one property a year to retire by age 31. He now is cash flowing and enjoying his portfolio. And Ryan is going to talk about his unique strategy. So Ryan, thanks for hopping on the show.
Yeah. Thank you, Gabe. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I told you before we got on here, we always like starting with stories and hearing how people got to where they are. So why don't you take us to the beginning of your story in real estate and tell us how'd you get here?
Yeah. I graduated as a pharmacist in 2015. And I basically got my first job, worked a lot of overtime shifts, and was able to buy my very first rental in California in 2016, at the end of 2016, essentially. And what I did was I did this very unique strategy of putting extra bedrooms into the house and then renting out by the bedroom. And it'll be like a 5 or 6 bedroom house typically. And I'll rent them out to college students for anywhere from $600 to $700 or even $800 per month per room. So that would equal out to about $3,400 per month to $4,200 per month per single family house. And that allowed me to make a lot of cash flow on the first property so that I can reinvest it to buy the second home, the third home, the fourth home. And I basically, like Gabe said, bought one property a year. And then I would say around year 5 or 6, I started really scaling because what I did was I tapped into the equity on some of the initial properties and was able to use that to buy up to 15 rentals. So now I have 15 rentals, making about 15K a month in cash flow. And I was able to actually retire. I'm 31 now, and I retired actually last year. So,
Right on. Well, congratulations to that. And yeah, that is it's a unique strategy, the rent by the room strategy. I think it is it's unique to people who live in places like yourself, like, you know, Southern California, Seattle, New York, places where the real estate is a little bit more expensive. And and if you're in an area, like you said, where there's a university, you can get university students. So it is a cool strategy. So tell us, how did that first one go when you bought it? Well, the first one sounds like a regular single family. How did you get into the rent by the room strategy?
yeah, I actually had a buddy in college who did this. His aunt helped him buy a property very close by the school, and he just rented it out to his friends. And he basically lived for free, and he had money coming in on top of that. So I was like, when I graduated, I was like, I got to do this because I enjoy working with other college students. I recently graduated, so I can kind of relate to them and their struggles. And I recently got my degree, so I did the same thing. I bought my first one nearby my alma mater, UOP, University of the Pacific, in Stockton, California, and I basically just had that was my very first time being a landlord, and I had a tough time because there are a lot of things that happened on that house. It was 100-year-old house. So I actually got a call at like 11 p.m. from one of the tenants, and he said, "Hey, dude, there's like the sewage coming out of the kitchen sink, and it's spilled all over the kitchen floor, and it's also backing out into the bathrooms as well through the shower drains." And so I had to call up a cleanup crew. It was in the middle of the night. And I found out that the pipe was actually broken when they stuck a camera down it. They did a snake and stuck a camera down it, and I had to replace the line for about $9,000. Not only that, there was no AC system, and so during the summers it got really hot, like 100 degrees outside. So I had to put in a new AC system, which cost me about, I think it was about $12,000 or $15,000. Um, and so all in all, I spent about $30,000 on that very first property because I didn't really vet the property properly during the escrow period. Like
Hmm.
if I did a sewage line inspection For example, during escrow, I could have found that the pipes were broken already at the time, and I could have had the seller put credit towards that repair. So I really didn't know what I was doing at the beginning. I had no mentors or anything. I was just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to just make it happen and see where it goes. But I've learned a lot since then, so that I can spot these issues with the houses and red flags before they occur. And every single property I bought, I would say I actually made a little bit more cash flow every single time until I perfected it. And a lot of times now I have like these 6 or 7 bedroom houses, or even duplexes with up to 10 bedrooms, where the cash flow is around 2,500 to $3,000 per month. And then my highest one is about $3,500, $3,700 in cash flow per month.
Very nice. Um, so I can imagine rent by the room sounds a lot like an Airbnb almost, with a little bit higher turnover, not quite as much as Airbnb, obviously, but
Mhm.
the managing side of it sounds difficult to me. How has managing been, and what are some of the kind of lessons that you've pulled over the number of years that you've been investing this way?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of people expect the turnover to be a lot more than it actually is. So the turnover is every once a year or once every 2 years. So all of my students
I think
are
the
on
average
two
for
year.
regular multifamily is 5 years, so that's actually not as bad. I mean, two
Yeah.
years versus five, it's not as horrible as I had thought.
Yeah, definitely. So I have at least three of my properties where all the students are on 2 year leases. Just because usually when they go through school, like grad school, for instance, they're usually staying for 2 or 3 years. Or I also bring in some medical workers too, and they're doing either their residency or fellowship. And a lot of times those programs are 2 or 3 years as well. So I will have people who stay for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and a lot of times they'll renew for another year. So I would say about at least 50% of the people stay for the second year, right? And what's great is all of these people, they know other people, they have friends and whatnot. So if I provide a really good environment for them to study and, enjoy their stay, then they'll refer their other 4 or 5 friends to me, and they'll say, hey, Ryan's charging only $600, $700 per month versus the on campus, which is charging $1,200 per month. And you don't have to pay for a meal plan. You have your own private room versus having to live with a roommate. So it's just a really good deal overall for a lot of these students. And it actually saves them a lot of money in student loans as well.
So is this it most of the examples that you've given have been at or near the campus. Yeah, are you specifically looking for houses that are near a university, or do you also do this strategy downtown or somewhere else outside of the university area?
Yeah, so I try to be nearby two things, the university as well as a large medical hospital or medical center. And that's pretty much the biggest criteria for doing this method, because the closer you are to the school, the more convenient it is for students, the more students you're going to attract, and also the higher prices you can command for rent. But it is a very blue ocean market strategy, and it's very untapped, because everyone's doing the sexy thing, which is Airbnb or even midterm rentals. But the student rental market, I mean, you can make 2,500, 2,000, $2,500 per month in cash flow on a single family home that only costs 200 or $300,000 for the property, right? So it's just
200 to
like a really
300,
good
that doesn't
strategy.
sound right in California. Is that
Oh,
what
not in
you're getting it for?
California, no. But
Okay,
I also invest out of state. So I have some in
got it.
Ohio, I have some in California. California is more like 1,500. I do have one that's 2,000 a month though. In Sacramento, I got it at a 2.75% interest rate, so it's actually cash flows 2,000 a month. But yeah, out of state is where most of mine cash flow 2,500, 3,500. But if you think about it, logically, if I'm charging like $700 a room and I have 6 bedrooms, that's $4,200. And then if I buy a 200 to low $300,000 house, that's about 1,500 to 1,800 per month for the mortgage payment. So 4,200 minus 1,500, you can do the math on that. It's really good cash flow.
Got it. So how do you choose the universities that you're investing near?
Yeah, so I try to invest near top universities. So
Okay.
if you think about like Ivy League colleges, it doesn't have to be Ivy League, but I really choose prestigious colleges so that the students that I bring in, they're like straight A students. They're really focused on getting that degree. A lot of them are going for their doctorate or for like, let's say a dentistry degree or a law degree. So they're pursuing higher education and they're just really focused on, hey, I want to get my degree. I don't want any drama or any house parties or anything like that. So they're really some of the best tenants out there, honestly. I'd rather rent to them uh, than I guess, non-professionals or not people who are, maybe working minimum wage jobs or something like that. It's just a lot more steady income, more consistent income because they have several sources to pay the rent. They could use student loans, they can use financial aid, or their parents. In a lot of cases, it's the parents paying the rent, right?
So you're not looking at like Ohio State. No offense to Ohio State, but you're not looking to like state schools. You're looking for, I mean, if it is a state school, you're looking for a top performing state school, maybe a medical university, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think OSU is in Columbus, right? But yeah, I usually
Yeah, I don't
target
know anything about OSU,
private.
by the way. If OSU is awesome, that's that's great. But I'm picking on them randomly. I'm
Oh yeah,
sorry.
no worries. I try to avoid community colleges.
Okay. Yep.
Generally. Those people, they might only be there for like 2 years before they transfer to a bigger university as well. I really target the ones that have large graduate programs and a good variety of graduate programs like dentistry, pharmacy, medicine, nursing, law, engineering, that type of stuff. So that uh, I typically provide for this, higher quality tenant who already kind of went through their undergrad studies and they're just really focused on getting that graduate degree.
Cool. I love it. Well, right on, man. It looks like we have run down the clock, so it's time to jump into the quick question round. Are you ready?
Mhm.
All right. It starts with books or any form of education, really. I need two recommendations, one for general life wisdom and one for real estate.
For real estate, I would say The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. It's a great one to get into the mindset of how do I scale this so that it can replace my income or lead me to obviously scale my net worth, etc. I think it's a really good one in terms of building teams and systems because real estate, after you get to probably your house number three or house number four, you really have to start thinking about setting up a system and teams so that this becomes a true passive experience for you as the operator. And then for general life experience, I would say for general life advice, there's something called Meditations by Marcus
Mm.
Aurelius. Really good book in terms of mindset. One of the lessons taught is don't focus on things you can't control. If always ask like, hey, do I have direct control over this? If you don't, then don't worry about it, right? Only focus on the things that you can control. Let's say tenant's not paying their rent. Well, you can't force them to pay the rent, right? You don't have any control over that. What you can control is obviously have an attorney or a property manager handle that situation. But it's really focused, not, or it's really important not to get bogged down in things you can't control. So, really good book to read, Meditations. It's pretty old. It was written by a Roman emperor. So,
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Moving on, next question is for your younger self. So let's go back to the Ryan who was just graduating school so many years ago. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
I would say, I think the strategy of buying one house a year is great. Um, I would always recommend trying to scale up to like 5 or 6 houses as soon as you can. But then when you get to that mark, it's really important you build up the back end of your business as well. So for real estate, I highly recommend once you get to about 5 rentals or so, start building a customer support, like actually have somebody who handles that. And then have systems, of course, for the marketing as well. So maybe you even hire on somebody who will do your full-time marketing. But it takes a while to get to that fifth rental. I would say after that fifth rental, though, really start building those systems so that you have a solid base to scale further.
Yeah, systems are very important. And the sooner you get them dialed in, the happier you will be because there's going to be less gray hairs growing out of your head.
Exactly.
Next question is about the US. It's a big place. There is a ton of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro, or I guess the single university that you're most excited about investing around today.
University of Houston, I would say. So there are three universities there in Houston. There's University of Houston, there's Texas Southern University, and Rice University. So all very prestigious universities. It's like all in the same area too. And Houston is a growing market. Appreciation is around, I think, 6 or 7% or higher even in some neighborhoods. So I'm super excited about that market. Um, and I planning on investing there within a year or two.
Cool. I don't know a ton about Houston. I'm invested in Dallas and San Antonio, but not
Nice.
Houston. Both Dallas and San Antonio, the median house price is above the 200 mark. Is yours Houston's around 200 for a house?
It could be around low 300s, but
Okay,
yes, low 300,000, but the rent is higher. So the rent per room is around 800 a month.
interesting. Cool. All right, next question is about finding the deal. It all starts with getting in contact with the seller and penning that purchase agreement. So, what is your favorite way to generate leads and find new deals?
Honestly, I look at Zillow every day. I know it doesn't sound like sexy or anything like that, but I find most of my deals on Zillow. Because I use a very specific method, there will be houses that will sit on there for like 3 months before. In case in point, I bought this 10 bedroom house. It was literally 10, well, technically 11 bedrooms, and nobody else wanted it because
It's
who
too
wants a
big.
10 bedroom house, right? Yeah, what are you gonna do with all those bedrooms? So I actually got about an 87,000 dollar discount. I'm trying to remember exactly. What happened is it was 450,000, and then I put in an offer for 350K, and then they accepted it at 367K, I believe. And so yeah, just nobody else wanted it, so I got a huge discount on it, and I was able to get 9 students in there. And this year, basically 10 students in there. And so the cash flow on that was about $3,700 per month.
Very cool.
Mhm.
And another lesson in that is always offer what you think the value is. Who cares what the price is listed on
Exactly.
market? Always offer what you think the actual value of that property is, because especially brokers, they are notorious for listing a property at a much higher price than anybody's willing to pay. So offer what you think the value is, and a lot of times you're going to get at or near that offer.
Yeah, totally agree.
All right, next question is lessons learned. Not every deal goes the way that we expect it. In fact, a lot of times the deal will go a little south. Something will happen, but you'll get to learn a lesson in that experience. So, what was a deal that went a little sideways for you, and then what was the lesson you pulled from it?
Yeah, definitely that first deal. Going back to losing $30,000. What I did learn is that a lot of times real estate it can be tough, but it's also very forgiving if you hold on to it for a good amount of time. So that same deal went up about 250K. And I actually sold it and 1031 it into other deals. But yeah, it was very forgiving. I lost 30K, but then I gained 250K. So overall, I didn't lose anything, right? So I think the biggest lesson there is to always hold on to the properties as long as your mortgage is covered, you're making cash flow. Just be patient with the process. And like 7 or 8 years down the line, you can sell it and buy like a quadruplex or, expand using the cash that you're getting and the appreciation that you're getting on that property. So I think patience is really important to have as a real estate investor and investing in general. Patience is the number one trait that will make you successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that you said real estate can be very forgiving. I feel like real estate is punishing in the short term but forgiving in the long term. If
And
you
have
if
said
you
it
make
better.
yeah, if you make mistakes in the short term, so long as you're holding on, and you're right, if you're holding an asset that's losing you cash, that's never fun. But even if you hold that for long enough, most likely it will be net positive. Not saying that you'll want to do that, but time definitely heals wounds in real estate. So, good advice. That leads us to the very last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a two-parter. Where can they find you? And then what can they expect when they reach out?
Yeah, so I actually have a free PDF about student housing and my strategy, a lot of the mistakes that I made and how I got around them and how I pulled myself out of them. And so I also provide a newsletter as well for some of the things that are currently going on in my real estate investment career, as well as lessons I'm learning on, every single day. And so you can access that at www.newbierealestateinvesting.com/guide. That's www.newbierealestateinvesting.com/guide. And newbie is spelled Newbie.
Perfect. I will put that link in the show notes. So if you guys want to reach out to Ryan, just click a little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description, and there you can find his link. All right, Ryan, that wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Thank you, Gabe. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. If you want to support the show, just leave us a review on Apple or whatever you're listening to this on. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.